Good evening, everyone. I'll call this City Council meeting to order. May I have the roll call, please?
Councilmembers Elliott.
Here.
Wroge.
Here.
Fitzhenry.
Here.
Sandahl.
Here.
Mayor Goettel.
Here. Do we have anyone for the open forum? I didn't see that as well. Okay. At this time, I'd ask everyone here to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time, I'd ask for approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of June 12, 2012, the special City Work Session of June 26, 2012, and the regular City Council meeting of June 26, 2012.
So moved. Second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval. We have with us tonight the annual meeting with our Arts Commission. So I'm looking forward to this. Would you please come up to the podium and introduce yourselves?
Need to talk in the mic?
Yes, you do need to talk on the mic. Thank you, Judy.
I'm Judy Goettel,
I'm Deborah Casserati.
and we're the co-chairs
Great.
of the Arts Commission, and we've got a few slides to share with you, if you don't mind. Let's see. Okay, so what we're going to go over is what we've achieved since last September when we reported to you last. We've enhanced the Art Center considerably since then. The city put in a new hard floor to replace the carpet that was there. We got some furniture to put various display pieces and some storage pieces that we got from an art gallery that was going out of business. And so that's there. And we've got some additional supplies that we didn't have before and some signs to advertise when we have events. We've been holding, let's see, we did open Saturday mornings in May, June, and July, and we'll continue to do those through October, on the second Saturday of the month during Farmers Market, 9:30 to 11:30. And that's open to anyone who wants to come in. There's
I've
no
been there.
charge.
Those are really very nice. The kids were making Mother's Day gifts the
Yes,
one
they were.
time. That was really fun.
We had 87 children
Yes.
in May.
That's wonderful. So it's a second Saturday, moms and dads. Bring those kids in. This is a great adventure for them.
Okay, we've been doing displays, and we've got the new display case right outside the door here. We also have displays regularly at the community center and in the library. We don't put the ones up in the library, but we kind of send them, recruit
artists for the library.
Yeah. And our teen art contest has been getting bigger and better every year. It's actually an Augsburg Park Library event, and we are kind of consulting to them, but we help them, and it's definitely going forward and getting more and more kids to participate. The public art brochure that I'm sure you're aware of, it was published last winter, and those seem to be very popular. A lot of people take them, and I've heard about it a number of times in places. And in terms of our plans for the remainder of the year, we'll continue to do our open house Saturdays in August, September, and October. Teen art contest will be happening in the fall. We plan to participate in the Penn Avenue Open Streets event that's coming up in September, I believe. We'll continue to manage the art displays. And we've been looking to enhance our web presence. One of our members is working on our Facebook page and really getting some things organized for us there. And we yesterday received a donation from Larry Kuchar of $1,000. So
Wow.
we'll be getting, yes, it's really nice. We'll be getting some equipment with that.
If I can
enhancing our
interrupt, that was
programs.
the Larry Kuchar that spoke to
Yes.
us today. I
Yeah,
didn't
that was
know,
very
he
nice.
mentioned he had done that. I didn't know it was
Very
just
nice.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And let's see, what you can do to help us, we publish an arts newsletter every 2 months or oftener. And we're always delighted when people read that, because we have good things, and we try to make sure people know what's going on. If you can go to our Facebook page and like us, that would be easy and free. And anybody in the city, we'd love to have more people like us. And please, everybody attend our events. They're open to everyone, and we really like it when people come. Another couple of things that we'd really be interested in is recruiting more commission members. We don't have a full roster of commission members. And some things that we think we could work with you on to improve the process would be to develop a job description for the members of the Arts Commission, to help you with interview questions, and then help do some marketing to actually attract applicants and see if we can fill the rest of the commission. We'd also like over time to have the Art Center really become an enterprise of the city and be more like the other art centers around. And, we've listed some things there. We know that can't happen overnight, but it would be really nice over time if we could move in that direction.
And as far as the recruiting of more commission members, we're going to be losing 40% of the present Arts Commission by the end of 2013.
Because they've served there.
Because they have
of
served its term limits. And some of the ideas that we are working on is for networking and recruiting. We do have a plan to use actual business cards for the Arts Commission, because we wind up handing out our own if we have them. And then we feel that the reason we can't, or I shouldn't say that, we haven't attracted enough people to the Arts Commission is because there are very few people in Richfield that realize there's an Arts Commission. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of us updating our Facebook page and getting out there in public more is to generate support and interest in the Arts Commission. And another reason we lose people, even before their 3 years is up, is because they don't realize how much work it can be involved in it. And I think if they were made more aware of the time commitment, especially, May through October when we have the open houses and we're more active during that time frame, plus the other support we give with the library teen art show. Mm-hmm. We do the judging on that, so we've had people leave and we don't know why. Mm-hmm. It might be a question of, maybe we need to tell them how engaged we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we do. I mean,
and what we do.
Are you collecting names of the parents and folks that are coming into your Art Center on the weekend?
Yes.
Because I think that's some of your best recruitment.
Yeah.
That you could do. And if you had more volunteers,
yeah,
people would spread that thinner, and maybe art commissioners wouldn't feel so overwhelmed.
We have had people who are willing to just volunteer, which is fine. We need that. And we do think we have at least one recruit for the Arts Commission.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah. So hopefully you'll see that application later in the year.
Okay. Well, we can talk to some of those folks down in, I'll be down there in August, so I'll come down and chit-chat some more. I stopped in, and I've enjoyed that a lot.
Good.
I think that's a great enterprise that you guys started through the farmers market.
Okay. And as the kids say, art rocks. So that's all we have to say.
Okay. Are there other questions of the other commission members? I really think you guys are moving in the right direction, too. And I like your display out here, too. Thank you for being a part. Do you ever have trouble, recruiting? Or how do you get your artists for, the community center and stuff? I've seen it, some of the beautiful artwork, and it's very diverse and different.
I think up until this year, we've actually found Richfield artists. Mm-hmm. There are still a lot more Richfield artists who have not displayed at the community center that I need to contact. We are branching out. We give Richfield artists priority.
Okay.
If we get no response, then we branch out to the other suburbs.
Okay.
The current artist at the community center and the library is from Edina.
Yeah, I saw that. just recently.
But the artist out here is Richfield.
Richfield, yeah.
Beautiful. It's very nice to see the diversity you guys capture.
Yeah.
So,
So
thank
over
you.
time, I think more of the artists will know that we're there, and hopefully we'll be hearing from more of them that they're interested in exhibiting, because we love it, and it's really inspiring to see how many people there are.
Yeah, and I know Councilmember Sandahl is a huge supporter of yours with, she would like
I
the
am.
statues, and, somewhere down the road as the economy gets better, I still think that's a really good, viable idea too, to have kind of a contest and get sculptures into the city more, have a city walk. We have a lot already started.
Oh, and you have done such a nice map of where the existing artwork is and
Yes, you have.
for people to see.
So thank you for your hard work.
And it would be nice if we could get some of the other arts as well, like writers and
Music.
We have some
Dance.
musicians, but we could certainly do with more.
Yes, I know, we had a theater production at one time too.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
So
Let me ask a question. You're currently understaffed, or you're not a full complement. Do you think the number that it would be there if they were all there is a good number? Would you want a bigger group of people, smaller group of people?
I think we have 4 open spots
yeah,
right now.
well, I think our official number is 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to see at least 12. It would be nice to get 15. We're going to recruit.
Okay.
We're going to try to fill those open spots.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could do more.
And I think you might do well to look at just some recruitment of volunteers, so that, like you said, you didn't have to rely necessarily on commissioners, since it's such a lot of commitment.
Well, we're doing some of that, but
Good
you know,
idea. Very
the
good
more
idea.
people we get, and especially if we get some people who are interested in other disciplines who can actually bring that expertise in.
Yeah. Writing classes would be cool.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A poetry contest
Yeah,
in Richfield?
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, there's a coffee shop right outside our
I-
door. We
I
can have a
know.
poetry slam right
I
there.
know we could. I would think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Evening and poetry slam down there.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
You know, we're wide open to it. We just need some people who know how to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
All right.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That's great. Okay, we are at council discussion, and hats off to Hometown Hits. I'm going to start with Tom. I know you have some stuff to bring.
I do. I was going to ask Jim Topitzhofer to come on up and speak about our Veterans Memorial. They got the overhead.
There you go.
Mayor and City Council members, well, you're all aware that we've started work on the remaining phase of the monument that exists here in Veterans Park, just north of the Legion. What you see on the screen here is the concrete work that's being done right now. We're actually constructing the 6 columns. Each one of those columns represent branches of the U.S. Armed Forces. And they're done in a total of 3 pours. We've completed the first pour that you see there. And the second one will be completed this week. And then the remaining, well, they're 15 feet tall altogether. They're quite impressive. The colors and the textures of the columns are turning out great. And that's the hardest part of the whole project, is getting those done. That takes the most amount of time. But you'll see some more work being done on the grounds. We're taking the berm out soon, putting in the sidewalks. You'll see a lot more get done. We've also poured the cap on the pedestal, so it has a more finished look. So we're on schedule to have this done this year, and before the winter comes in, we'll have all the seed put in, and we're on track to do that.
Okay. Sounds great. That's exciting news to hear that this is moving along very quickly.
That's all I have here. Thanks.
Okay. I just wanted to say a couple things about the 4th of July. It was a very, very hot day, and I want to thank our officers. We're out in force, and You know, people can lose their temper and get a little cranky in that heat, but our officers were just great out there. So I just wanted to say kudos and thanks to you, because I know sometimes the crowds get a little tough, and there were some situations there too where we had people overheating and such. So I appreciate the firefighters who opened up the fire hydrant, because I can tell you I walked through that. It doesn't matter mayor or not, it was hot out there. I appreciate that. But I also want to say kudos to Best Buy. Best Buy, you did a fabulous, fabulous job on those fireworks. They were absolutely incredible. If anybody went and saw 3D fireworks, that was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in a long time. It just totally enveloped you. You thought you were inside the explosion with it, and it was an explosion of color. And it was just beautiful. And there's not even an accurate way to describe what that was like. So I just wanted to thank them. And I want to also let you know, I was actually at Best Buy today. The Geek Squad has a summer camp, believe it or not. And so I attended the Geek Squad summer camp with 100 kids, you know, and they all think it's cool to be geeks. And I do too, because I'm an engineer. So, but it was wonderful because they invited 100 students from all over the cities. And they were kids who necessarily didn't have technology at home. So they were sometimes socioeconomically challenged. They provided busing for them. They kept them all day long until 5 o'clock, and they provided them lunch. And these kids came into a room, one group of all girls came into a room with a computer totally in pieces and had to put it together. And I watched these kids do it. Tomorrow they have a contest to see if they can beat the instructor. And the instructor gives them 10 seconds, and he does it blindfolded. And they have to beat the instructor. These girls were fun and sharp, and it was bright. Another class, they were doing digital music. They were putting together digital music, and they were going to take that the next day, and they're doing digital animation, and they're going to put that together in a video. So, I mean, in another group of kids who are a little bit older were doing programming, and they were actually putting bugs in the program, and they were teaching the kids how to debug a video game and put it right and make it a better game. So just think about that. I mean, what we're doing. We never thought video games were going to go anywhere, right? Now these kids can make millions of dollars just programming and making these games. But it gives exposure to these students. And they'd like to link in more with our schools, so I'll be talking to our superintendent about linking into our schools more and getting more of our Richfield students involved in something like this as well. Some Richfield students were there, but we could certainly, they'd like to target our students since they're a Richfield-based business here. They do 40 of these classes throughout the country at different locations with other nonprofits. The Campfire organization helps out with this as well and helps sponsor this. But this was an incredible event to have, and that's right here in our own backyard. So kudos to Best Buy, and we want to thank them. Councilmember Sandahl.
I would just repeat what you said in terms of the thank you to the committee that put on the 4th of July, to all of the city officials and police and fire who worked it, and the volunteers and the committee. They did a fabulous job.
Did a good job.
And even in spite of the 100+ degrees, it was still a good event. Just wanted to also let people know, coming up on Thursday, July 12th, is another concert at Augsburg Park. And it will be Dan, Perry, and Ice Cream. And for those who are maybe more formal, the following Thursday at 7 o'clock on the 19th of July, the Northern Winds Concert Band will be performing. So good. Those are both going to be good coming events, and encourage people to put it on your calendars.
Excellent. So fun concerts. Council member.
Okay, I got a couple of things. One is, as we were talking about 4th of July, I happened to, I had to get the old bike tuned up, you know.
Yeah, I saw
Get the
that.
old top hat on again, so. I had a good time with it, but what I did is I actually came back through the parade, coming back in the opposite direction, because I still had a lot of candy left. I wasn't bringing it home. So I got to the end of the parade, and I got to Nicollet Avenue, and I just want to talk about the city crews who, before the parade was over, Nicollet Avenue looked like there'd never been anybody there the whole day. I was amazed. I guess I'd never seen that before, because I always come back down 70th. And so I want to say thank you to, I don't know if it was one person or 10 people, or I didn't see them. But I couldn't believe how fast our city was put back together again, and not one piece of paper, not a cigarette butt, not a glass, nothing on Nicollet Avenue by the time I got coming back down south on Nicollet Avenue off of 66th Street. So congratulations to whoever was involved in that. Please let them know I really appreciated what Nicollet Avenue looked like, and I'm sure 66th Street, the same thing would have happened the minute I turned around and went down Nicollet. The second thing is I sent an email back in response to a possible date for us to start talking about what we're going to do with housing in Richfield. And I didn't know you were going to be out of town. So I didn't want to respond by email. I just thought I'd wait till tonight. And I would really like to see us move faster, at least getting the preliminary meeting out. And I talked to Steve about this, our city manager. So what I was wondering is if you're going to be back on the 30th, if we might try to do something the first week of August, even maybe as early as Wednesday, August 1st, to get together just as a group of 5. Or if we can do it as a group of 5 that we know we can all do it on the 1st, to ask the planning commission members and HRA members to come that night too and see how many will come. You know, when we're dealing with that many people, I don't know if we'll ever find a night that everybody will come.
Yes,
But
but
if we
I
can
think
at
the
least
council
get the
needs to be
5
here.
council members together and then ask the other ones to come, I'd like to start with as early as possibly Wednesday, August 1st, if you people are cooperative and if your dates are open and if that would work, because we've got some real issues ahead of us and I'd like to get started. I have an idea that I'd like to see us do is, and I've said this before, is to take that block on Pillsbury and give it to 10 different developers and say, what would you do with this block if you did it from one end to the other? What would it cost? What would it look like? Give us a plan like we did with the city hall. And the sooner we can have some conversations, I don't know if we have to put everything in writing about what our strategy is going to be, but just the possibility of doing something like that, I think would be really pretty wild idea for the city, and see what we can come up with if we give a bunch of different developers the opportunity to come up with their plan.
I would actually like to go further than that and look at some study sessions around housing and what other communities are doing with housing and everything. And I understand that might be frustrating because of my time schedule, but I prefer not to make that public because I'm leaving and my house is not there. So I would prefer that you did not speak about that in the public forum, if you wouldn't mind. And I could certainly do this during email, so I could let you know where I am and where I'm going and such. Just because, safety issues with the house being, on vacation.
Okay.
So, but I wouldn't mind having discussions. I do want everybody to try to get together because of that. And I would really like to talk about the whole idea because I, like you, have the same feelings around inclusionary housing and stuff, but I don't know that everybody's on the same page with that. I think we need to get some education around that for some of our HRA members especially, and the fact they've even asked me about that specifically. So I think I would like to move forward with that. I don't know that I just want to do Pillsbury Commons. I want a broader package on that because I think this isn't going to come up just this one time. I think it's going to come up many more times, council member. And I think I'd like to get it started in the right direction for the entire city. And in fact, when I was just around the regional council of mayors, there was wonderful discussion about the fact that they talked about one city strategy was that in Burnsville that they have 30% multifamily, and that included all types of multifamily. That was, but they wouldn't go above that. And developers would come back and ask for these kinds of things, and they said, no, we have 30%. That's what we think our city should do because of these statistics and such, and we'll be happy to do those. But 70% is residential, 30's this, and we'll do these things. So, but we don't have anything like that, and we have no guidelines at all, and different cities do so many different things. And I see that we have staff up here who probably is going to give some comments about that as well.
If I may, and I think that I'm with you that it has to be a lot broader than Pillsbury Commons or one particular area. But I'm also convinced that we better have a fairly strict agenda and stick to it because we've got a lot of free thinkers and a lot of stream of conscience and we've got a lot of different personalities. And if we all get in a room and start doing a little stream of conscience, we're going to be all over the board. I think we need an agenda and we need to stick to it and we need to be disciplined to get to where we have to go.
Yeah, and I think the HRA and the city council is going to have the most direction here. But staff had an
Yeah,
objection?
just real briefly, community development staff sounds like is on the same page as you. We've been meeting on this twice a week since it was brought up. There are a couple of conclusions we've reached that we would be recommending. One is that early on the term that was used was develop a housing policy. And as everybody up there is saying, it sounds like we think it's broader than that. We think that really what Richfield needs to develop is a housing vision. What is our housing going to look like in the future? all across the board. And secondly, just to what Councilmember Elliott spoke to, even, the 5 or 6 staff members that were sitting around in a room brainstorming, that can get just all over the place. And we came to the conclusion that, we would be recommending not a consultant per se, but a facilitator. They don't necessarily even have to know anything about housing, but somebody to help us keep on focus, keep on track.
I've actually talked to some folks at the Humphrey Institute at the University of Minnesota about whether they have the ability to help with some of that, and they actually do.
Yep, and we've been talking to the Humphrey folks
okay,
about
then
this
you and I are talking the same people. I did a symposium
It's a good thing we're all tracking
that.
the same, and we would love to come back and talk to you about this. I would like to be a part of the conversation. I'm not here on the date that Councilmember Wroge mentioned. Certainly, there are other staff people, and if I can't be here, that's not the end of the world. But we'd like to get moving on this as quickly as possible, too.
Okay. Right. Okay. Other Councilmember?
So is August 1st going to work?
It will not work for me.
Will August 2nd work for you?
No, it won't.
I'm going to suggest that Cheryl try and pull all of the horses together again in the corral, send out an email, and maybe we could all submit dates we're not available.
Yep.
And then we'll see what's left and let her go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Elliott, did you have anything for council
just to
discussion?
say I'm somewhat disgruntled listening to everybody talk about the wonderful week, and I'll know better than to schedule elective surgery on the 2nd of July the next time around. So
There you go. Thank you.
We're glad you're here today, though.
Yes, we
well,
are.
thank you.
I'm glad you're well.
It's good to
Doing
be back.
good?
Yep.
Glad to have you back. I'd ask for council approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Council agenda is approved. Consent calendar, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight we have kind of a long consent calendar. And for those in the audience and those watching at home, the consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and the recommended actions will also have been approved, and no further council action on those items would be necessary. Tonight, we start off with item A, which is consideration of approval of canceling a public hearing on July 10th, that's tonight, 2012, regarding preliminary and final plat approval for land located at 7641 Pleasant Avenue, former Public Works garage property, and the former Gleason Mortuary at 211 West 76th Street, or it's all Pillsbury Commons. Item B is consideration of approval of first reading of an ordinance amending amendment related to Minnehaha Creek Watershed District Stormwater Management Rule and scheduling a second reading for July 24th, 2012. Item C is consideration of approval of renewal of commercial lease with MnDOT for the use of the excess land along I-494 adjacent to the Best Buy campus for continued use as a parking lot and a transit station. Item D is consideration of approval of resolution providing for the sale of $2,150,000 of general obligation street reconstruction bonds, Series 2012A. Item E is consideration of approval of resolutions pertaining to the annual Lindale Hub Nicollet, or LHN, maintenance assessment process, and scheduling a public hearing for August 13th, 2012. Item F is consideration of approval of resolutions pertaining to the annual 77th Street Maintenance District assessment process and scheduling a public hearing again for August 13th, 2012. Item G is consideration of approval of resolution declaring the cost to be assessed for removal of diseased trees from private property for work ordered in 2011 and scheduling that public hearing for August 13th, 2012. And let me just say for those watching, now those are Monday nights, but August 14th, which would have been our regular city council meeting, is primary election day, and so we can't hold a city council meeting on primary election day, and so it moves to the Monday before August 13th. Just thought I'd clarify that for those listening. And our final item is consideration of approval of revisions to West Connection, East Connection bicycle route project plans, and a resolution authorizing amendment to MnDOT Agreement Number 99916, accepting additional funds in the amount of $100,675 for additional engineering and construction changes for the project, and a resolution for no parking on the west side of Bloomington Avenue between 66th Street and Diagonal Boulevard, and areas of Humboldt Avenue between 69th and 75th Streets. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Is there discussion or points?
You know, I missed to pull this. I just have a question about the email that we got today regarding some issues. Could you just clarify if they're accurate and what possible problems we might have? I guess the big one I'm concerned about is the reference to two buses passing each other with a, I think it said 6-inch
Clearance?
clearance.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm Jeff Pearson, transportation engineer for the city. I understand there's the graphics that were included in your packet can be a little confusing, a little misleading. Basically, the previous plan delineated all the lanes. So you had a 7-foot parking lane, a 5-foot bike lane, and a 10-foot drive lane. Those were clearly delineated, and a vehicle, had to stay within that 10-foot drive lane. There was a center lane stripe. So what it went to MnDOT, and it didn't meet their standards for a state aid street. So they did approve this change. Maintains the same parking in the same locations as the previous plan, goes to a 6-foot advisory bike lane. And what that means is there's a solid stripe between the parking and the bike lane so that cars don't park into the bike lane. But once you move out into the drive lane, the center line stripe is gone, and there's an effective shared space here of about 30 feet. So there's a 6-foot advisory bike lane, but a car can actually, it's a dashed line, so a car can actually go into that bike lane to pass another vehicle, to two buses. They're not restricted to stay into that center driveway area. So it becomes you actually get more effective shared drive aisle. If that clarifies anything for you, this says 18-foot drive lane. That's kind of misleading because a vehicle can actually enter the advisory bike lane. It's a dashed line, so they're not restricted to stay in that 18 feet.
DOT thought an advisory bike line was a good idea.
Yeah,
That sounds asinine to me.
I know, and it's what's confused. Where our frustration lied is the MnDOT bike manual says you can do this original situation that we had laid out. But once it went to state aid, they didn't want all these minimum lane widths all on one street. So they've actually proposed that Minneapolis and Edina are both doing routes in the same manner as we're proposing now with the advisory bike lane. And it does require, MnDOT approves it and has steered all those communities that way. It does require an evaluation period after. So we'll be teaming up with Edina and Minneapolis to perform that post-construction evaluation.
I can't believe the bicyclists are too enthused about sharing traffic with buses and vehicles. To me, I mean, did anybody talk to them? That to me, if you drive down in Minneapolis now and you encroach, you get within a half a foot of a bike lane, people are going to start pounding on your car. Well, I mean, that to me is inviting disaster.
And it's not that you would drive the entire length of the street in that bike lane.
Understood, but just the fact that in your mind when you're driving, and if a bus, you don't like how close you're going to keep moving back and forth in and out, and that's not the safety factor that I think bicyclists are looking for. That's my concern.
Councilmember Sandahl, you had
Sorry.
Yeah, I did. Will there be a bicycle drawn on the pavement as shown?
Yes.
Okay, so that cars will know that is a bicycle
lane.
lane.
Yes.
They'll know at some point.
Yeah, at some point when they see it.
But where does it start and where does it
Yes,
end
agreed.
if it's provisional?
Right, and it's like this graphic shows. Really, the only difference between a typical bike lane or a more traditional bike lane and this is that line between the drive, center drive area and the bike lane is a dashed line. So
It's advisory, so I mean you can ignore it.
You can cross it.
Which means you can ignore it.
Yeah. And I should add that previously, south of 66, we did have one side that was a Sharrow so to speak, where there was no actual bike lane. It just had a bike insignia and those double arrows. When that was called a sharrow. And this reconfiguration allows us to do an advisory lane, which in my mind is more of a bike lane. Now in other areas, we've gone from a fully designated bike lane down to a advisory lane. So,
And I don't mean to sound like I'm badgering. To me, that's asinine, and it's not directed at you. It's directed at DOT for thinking that that's going to work.
well, I'm sorry.
May I-
Councilmember.
what is the time frame for review and looking over how it's working? Is it a year or?
No. Oh, you mean in the evaluation?
Yeah, for the evaluation.
Yeah, it would. From my understanding, it would be basically come back after a year, and perform the counts and perform the evaluation of all those measures, counts and usage and safety and all that.
Because we do, in a sense, have that on Portland Avenue now. I mean, isn't it Portland? Yeah. Where you have a lane that's not necessarily for bicycles only, but isn't that the shared lane?
Well,
No, that's not marked for bikes at all.
No, it's not marked for bikes, but bicycles
This will be.
can use it.
but it's a solid
It's a
stripe as
solid
well.
stripe.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it's an experimental. Like the MnDOT calls it experimental. So that's why they require the evaluation. But it is also has been done in other locations successfully. I will agree that we were frustrated that MnDOT has two manuals, and one completely says this top one is fine, you can put it in, and the other manual says no, you can't do it. So there was some frustration with their consistency, but
I would reiterate that. I don't know about you, but I'm a bicyclist too. But there's scary parts of the city just to ride. I don't ride hardly on 66th Street just because of that. I don't want to get run off the road. Yeah, go ahead.
Where in Minneapolis, do you know where Edina or Minneapolis has this already, and how long have they had it?
I don't know the streets offhand. I could find that out and get you that information.
Yeah, I'd like to get that so I can go find them.
Mr. Eastling, you had something to...
I'd just like to comment that this is somewhat a reflection of a change that's occurring nationally, as there's kind of a more of awareness of where bikes can safely be and not, and how do you stripe it and sign it. In a very low volume road, it makes sense to maybe have it's called a sharrow, where only an occasional cart goes through, and to alert the motorist that there's going to be an occasional, the bikes are being directed down this road too, and perhaps a shared lane between bike and car makes sense. To the very high volume areas where you need a very designated area. The area that we're talking about here falls someplace in between. Yeah. It's probably unlikely that you're going to have a parked car on both sides, buses meeting, and bikes right at the same location at the same time. And if there gets to be a kind of a group that they will kind of space themselves and make sure that they don't all go past that choke point at the same time. But I think that all of the jurisdictions, local, state, national, are kind of going through a process of sorting out what maybe makes the most sense. And this is evidence of that there's even two of these kinds of recommendations coming from MnDOT.
I'd be real interested to hear back from the bike community about this too, if we could get there, just weigh in and see how they feel about it, because they're the ones who are, and I know they're advocates for people who like to ride on the street, so I'd like to hear what they had to say about that, if they've ridden these and what they think about them. So that should be in our evaluation. Council member.
I guess this is an example of why I think this is ridiculous that we're making two bike trails down Bloomington and Cedar, when probably moving everything to Cedar would have been the way to solve this, because of these bus lines going down Bloomington. On Portland Avenue, where the solid white line goes all the way down Portland, when you get to an intersection, are you allowed to cross over the white line and get in close to the curb to make a right-hand turn, or are you supposed to get behind the car that's in front of you waiting for a red light? Officers? We have so many here tonight.
It looks like Mike Eastling. Mike?
Well, actually, the county prefers to call that a shoulder. And if it's used as a bike lane or as a place for cars that are disabled to pull over, they right now are shying away from calling it a bike lane. Now, not that answers your question completely, but just so you know, that's right now, it's not an official bike lane. It's a shoulder that can be used by bicyclists.
That wasn't my question at all. My question is, if I'm in a big 4,000-pound car and I'm coming up to, let's say, 70th in Portland, and I want to make a right-hand turn and the light's red, and there's a car in front of me,
Yes,
Am
you
I
can pull
allowed to
over
make a
on,
right-hand turn alongside the curb there, which means I'm crossing over the solid white line that's been all the way down the street?
yes, that shoulder is used, can be used for temporary uses such as that.
To take a right turn?
Yes.
Officers, do we all agree? Raise your hand, please.
Mm-hmm.
We got to have humor once in a while.
Tom,
I see the chief would like to talk.
Can you take a mic, though? Please. Thanks.
Madam Mayor and council members, I haven't worked traffic for a while, but the traffic law is on a single solid white line. It's to discourage you from crossing it, but it is not illegal. A double
white, you can't
solid
cross.
line is illegal to cross.
Okay.
So if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate
Sure.
it. Oh, so my other part of this question was, the letter, the email that we got, anything on here that concerns you or that brought something to your attention that you might want to consider?
No.
I don't know how much of this is accurate. It sounds like the person took a lot of time to write it. So
Yes,
yeah.
and probably the confusion lied in the designation that it's an 18-foot drive lane, which is somewhat confusing because it makes you think that your actual drive lanes are 9 feet wide, when in reality you have that additional 6 feet that you can use as a legal drive lane. So, MnDOT's minimums is the 10-foot drive lane for a street like this, but because it's an advisory bike lane, that doesn't count against the drive lane width. Okay. So, nothing that concerned me in terms of engineering-wise, yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to explain that to us. Other questions on the consent calendar? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Consent calendar is approved. Come up to the first item. This is a consideration of a first reading of ordinances granting cable television franchise to Comcast of Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Tennessee, Inc., and repealing Section 726 of the Richfield City Code. Just a little background on this. The Southwest Suburban Cable Commission consists of the cities of Eden Prairie, Edina, Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Richfield, Minnesota, member cities. The commission administers and enforces the cable franchises on behalf of member cities. On or about January 1st, 1997, each of the member cities granted a cable television franchise to KBL Cable Systems of the Southwest, Inc., the existing franchise. At that same time, the member cities each adopted a cable television regulatory ordinance, called a regulatory ordinance, to be incorporated in the city code of each member city. In 2000, the commission and the member cities approved a transfer of the existing franchise to Time Warner, Inc. In June of 2005, Time Warner transferred the existing franchise to Comcast Communications, called Comcast. Comcast currently operates the cable system in each of the member cities under the authority granted in the existing franchise. The initial items of the existing franchise ran for 15 years and was extended by the member cities to now expire on July 31st, 2012. In 2009, Comcast requested renewal of the existing franchise, and the commission has since been engaged in informal renewal negotiations with Comcast in an effort to reach mutually accepted terms for the new franchise. In response to Comcast's request to franchise renewal in 2010, the Commission retained an outside consultant to draft a needs assessment reports outlining the future cable-related needs and interests of the member cities for the next franchise term. The Commission also prepared a draft franchise which incorporated the findings of the needs assessment. The draft franchise incorporated most of the key provisions of the regulatory ordinance in an effort to consolidate all cable regulations in a single franchise with Comcast. And there's a lengthy report, and we also have the ordinance here before us. And in the interest of not boring everybody through all this, I had asked if we could get the abridged version, and I could ask the city manager if he could present that in a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. And first of all, I would typically put this on the consent calendar because it's a first reading, and you're going to have a second reading and you're going to have a public hearing coming up on August 13th. I did set it aside separately because it is kind of a complex issue. The Cable Commission, which refers to the board of the 5 cities, selected Brian Grogan of Moss and Barnett, who is the commission attorney, and one city manager, me, and an IT person to negotiate this contract with Comcast. It's been at least a 1.5-year process, and because cable television franchises are still very complicated items to go through and negotiate, it's taken this long to get everything basically set aside between the two parties, with everyone having a pretty good understanding of what was needed, and it was quite a give and take process. For the average customer in in Richfield, they're really not going to notice much of a difference at all. For the city, we'll continue getting the franchise fees that we get. There will be some additional money coming to the city of Richfield for the purchase of equipment, like the equipment that we've put in this council chambers for broadcasting city council meetings, so that we can get what's PEG access, or government educational, governmental public educational programming out to our cable customers. And so we'll be able to reimburse ourselves for those kinds of things, and then again, upgrade the equipment as we go. A lot of it was basically just addressing what's going to happen with respect to cable television and digital signals, and a lot of other very detailed things that people probably don't want to hear about. But on the public hearing that comes up on August 13th, I've scheduled to have Brian Grogan do a presentation to the city council, anyone else who wants to see it, basically outlining what the changes are going to be and how they are going to affect our system. So that's why one of the reasons I wanted to not have it on consent and just kind of talk about it a little more. Okay. So if anyone's interested in finding more about that, August 13th will be the time.
Question. Councilmember Sandahl.
The Comcast studio is being closed, and apparently we're getting a little bit of money per person to substitute for that. What do the local groups, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber and any other political groups or whoever is out there wanting to broadcast, what do they do then?
That's a good question, and that's going to be part of what is talked about on the 13th. You see, and the federal law keeps on changing on what cable companies have to do in respect to cable franchises. I get calls all the time because my name is listed on everybody's cable bill. In case of an unresolved dispute, call Steve Devich, and here's his number. And you have to have a contact person by federal law. So people will call me on a regular basis and complain about their rates, complain about programming they don't have, complain about their service, complain about a lot of other things that I really don't have any authority for. But I do have a direct line to the company to call back and deal with these people. And just along the same way, again, more and more of our authority and the authority that once stood in cable franchises is disappeared. The requirement to have a studio is no longer there. They don't have to have a studio, and so they're not going to have a studio because it's very expensive. And truthfully, just with the way technology has changed, when they anticipated public access studios 20, 30 years ago, nobody envisioned iPhone cameras on your iPhone that are just as good as the stuff we used to broadcast cable or council meetings with about 3 years ago, or YouTube and all these other ways that people can publish themselves. What's really going to happen is we will have to have, and there's a lump sum cash settlement that's coming from the cable company to the 5 cities or the commission of $200,000. And we are going to have to put together some mechanism to provide for playback and some of the public access things that we've had in the past. We have a year to do that, and for 1 year, Comcast will continue to operate these things. But after that year, it's all handed off to the 5 cities. So it gives us a year to take a look at exactly how we're going to handle it, and gives us some cash to do something. But it's going to be a complete change of the way public access was done in the past.
Oh, interesting.
So is that including the replaying of Richfield City Council meetings and stuff?
No.
Are you doing that, or are they doing that?
No, actually, we're doing all of that right now.
Okay.
That's not going to change at all either. And, you know, we were so fortunate with this new city hall. We've got basically state-of-the-art equipment to do the kind of things that we do. And actually, again, the additional fees that we negotiated in that franchise for each of the 5 cities will provide us, again, a monthly stream of money to keep on replacing and upgrading those kinds of pieces of equipment, so that we should theoretically be able to, in the future, for at least the 10 years of the franchise, be able to do our public access, governmental access as we have here, with basically the state-of-the-art equipment and digital, and it can all go to digital signal when they set their channels up for all digital signals in the future. So,
But like doing the shows, like League of Women Voters or the round tables, I don't even know if that's even.
That's going to be, those
on.
things will definitely be
gone.
affected.
So we'll end up maybe having to like have a miniature little studio somewhere?
Council member, I'm not sure, but those are the kind of things we're going to have to sort through.
Okay. All right. I'm sure the staff will come to us with some solutions.
Sure.
And I'm sure in all the planning we did for our new city hall, we took care of that one already, right?
Sure.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance granting cable television franchise to Comcast of Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Tennessee, Inc., and the first reading of an ordinance repealing Section 726 of the Richfield City Code and scheduling the public hearing and second reading of the ordinance on August 13th, 2012.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Councilmember Wroge, you have the next item.
Okay, this is a consideration of a number of items related to the proposed plan unit development to construct a new auto body repair building at 301 77th Street West, commonly referred to as the Candlewood Outlot. Number one consideration is a comprehensive plan amendment changing the designation of the property from high-density residential to community, commercial, and office. Second thing would be rezoning the property from mixed-use community to planned mixed use. And third, final development plans and a conditional use permit for an auto body repair shop. And fourth, a summary publication of an ordinance rezoning the property at 301 77th Street West. I'm going to read the background here. And in 1992, the city purchased the property at 301 77th Street West, along with the property that is currently occupied by the Candlewood Hotel. In 1998, the city sold a portion of the property for construction of the hotel, and then sold the remaining 1.13 acres to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, HRA. The HRA and the Candlewood Hotel negotiated a cross-access agreement that would allow ingress and egress to the hotel via the drive aisle on the HRA parcel. The cross-access agreement also allowed both the Candlewood Hotel and any future user of the vacant lot to utilize up to 25 parking spaces on one another's property in an effort to promote shared parking. Since 1998, the HRA-owned portion of the site has remained vacant. In 2002, staff requested reassurance from the HRA that the desired use of the site was for a restaurant, or in special circumstances, a Richfield business that is being displaced due to redevelopment. The HRA agreed that this was still the intent. In 2009, Accessible Space Incorporated, known as ASI, and Twin City Christian Homes, TCCH, proposed the development of an accessible, affordable 51-unit housing project for low-income seniors at this site. The City Council approved both comprehensive plan and zoning amendments related to this request, but the funding for the project fell through, so the project did not move forward. Now, Richfield Bloomington Honda is interested in expanding their dealership in Richfield. In order to do so, Richfield Bloomington Honda has proposed to purchase the land currently owned by Lametry Properties, LLC, and partially occupied by Lametry Collision. Lametry is willing to sell provided that a new location for their business can be found within the immediate area. And on June 18th, the HRA granted Lametry permission to submit an application for the redevelopment of the property at 301 77th Street West. And a purchase agreement will be considered on July 16th. The HRA is under no obligation to sell this land. In 2005, the City of Richfield completed a corridor study for the properties on 494 between Cedar and 35W and the final Interstate 494 plan envisioned the area as a complete community that is compact, walkable, and transit-friendly. In order to achieve this, the plan recommends areas of higher density residential and commercial development to be interspersed throughout the corridor, allowing for a mutually beneficial relationship. The property at 301 77th Street West was initially designated as regional commercial and office in the comprehensive plan, but was re-guided for high-density residential use when the ASI residential project was proposed. This site is in a transitional area between an area that is guided for commercial use and one that is guided for residential use. Either a commercial or residential designation could be appropriate for the site. The more apt question, though, is how any particular use will impact adjacent properties. The impact on the current users and on potential redevelopment in the area should be taken into consideration. In a public hearing to consider the rezoning comprehensive plan amendment and the plan unit development proposal was held before the Planning Commission on June 25th, 2012. The Planning Commission recommended approval 6-0. The Council approved a first reading of the rezoning 5-0 on June 26, 2012. This is a long form, and I'm really not going to read all of this, but mainly what we're doing is trying to help two different developments. One, Lametri, to be able to move to a parcel of land, and then Richfield Honda to move forward with the building of a new Bloomington Honda dealership. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it, and then we can discuss it.
Okay,
all right?
good idea.
I'm going to move to approve a resolution amending the city's comprehensive plan by changing the designation of 301 77th Street West to Community Commercial Office, to approve an ordinance rezoning the property at 301 77th Street West from mixed-use community to planned mixed use, approve a final development plan and a conditional use permit to allow construction of an auto body repair shop at 301 77th Street West, and 4, to approve a resolution authorizing summary publication of an ordinance rezoning 301 77th Street West from mixed-use community to planned mixed use.
Second.
Okay.
Did staff have anything?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I would like to have John Stark just make a few comments on this. And one of the things that I certainly want to make sure that we keep in mind is obviously Candlewood Suites, which has been there for a long time, sits to the south of this project. Up at the top of that drawing, of course, is 77th Street, and then you have the proposed building and a parking lot, and then behind it, and what you don't see underneath it, is Candlewood. The driveway in the middle, that's the access to Candlewood. And that's one of the things I want to make sure we address, because that is the access to Candlewood. And, you have the building right alongside of that and the parking lot on the other side, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that and how we need to make sure we address that.
Will they be able to sign that so that they could help out?
I'll let John address all those questions specifically regarding that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Just a few things. One is, the resolution that goes along with this contains all of the things you typically see in these resolutions, subject to the Public Works Director approval of a stormwater plan. So everything is typical in there, with the exception of 3 things. One is, as City Manager Devich mentioned, the drive aisle going through the outlot property not only serves the outlot, but also serves Candlewood. And the Public Works Department has expressed concerns about the parking spaces that are shown perpendicular to that drive aisle, that there would be some conflicts with people backing out and customers of Candlewood trying to get through there. So one of the things that needs to be resolved as a part of the stipulations in the resolution is that issue. The Lametri representatives have expressed their willingness to get that resolved, so I don't think that we're going to have a problem there. And then the other 2 things are very small. One is Public Works needs only another 1.5 feet of right-of-way along 77th Street to meet their standards, and it sounds like the applicant is fine granting that. And then the third is just, again, a minor thing. The trees that are, the existing trees are not labeled in the plan. To the extent that they're ash trees or some other tree that Public Works has concerns over, they need to be removed. Other than that, this is a pretty typical deal. There are two outstanding items. One is the shared parking agreement itself. I don't have the graphic to show you, but the way that the shared parking agreement was written, there's a graphic that goes along with that has some ambiguity to it. And the Lumetri folks and the HRA attorney think it would be in everybody's best interest to amend that to remove the ambiguity. We've been in contact with Candlewood Corporate. We're hoping that we can get that resolved. Right now, the drive aisle that's shown in the cross-access agreement is labeled temporary, and we feel like that's our leverage with Candlewood Corporate to say, gosh, you really don't want that for perpetuity to say that's a temporary drive aisle because that puts you at some exposure. So in exchange for us removing the word temporary, we're looking for some minor concessions from you. We think that if we can get the right people's attention at Candlewood, we can get that resolved quickly. It's just it's part of the Holiday Inn group, I believe, and it's hard to track down the right people to talk to about these kinds of things, but we're working on it. Secondly, as was mentioned, the HRA is looking to sell the property to Lumetri. The way that the purchase agreement is written, as of now, hasn't been approved yet. That goes to the HRA next week. The sale would be contingent upon the Richfield Bloomington Honda deal going forward in some way, shape, or form. And we can. I don't remember exactly how that's worded, but to just make sure that this is all kind of a package deal.
Mm-hmm. These are two long-term businesses who have been very good to Richfield, and I think we want to try our hardest to work with them. And it sounds like they're working with us through the issues that they need to. So I know certainly.
I've talked to. I've been involved with Honda on this for a long time, and they assured me that this is all about them doing this thing. Yeah. So, and you're under that understanding too, right?
Yep, we're excited about this. Actually, Councilmember Sandahl.
I just had a question. Looking at this is a top-down diagram on the right-hand side of the drive aisle. What looks like a big letter H, black letter H.
Over further on the other side there.
Is that a canopy or a drive-through thing? What is that?
Yeah, that's a drive-through thing for quick estimations. If it's raining out and somebody has a fender bender and they just want to pull up under there for somebody to go and take a look and say, we need to replace your bumper and do these other two things.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, are the designated 25 shared spaces in the Candlewood lot, in this lot? Where are they?
They're not designated per se. And the idea is that on neither lot would they be putting up signs saying, Candlewood Hotel parking only, all others towed. The idea is it's kind of a self-policing thing. And the two users we're talking about really are ideal types of users for this, because a lot of Candlewood's parking needs are daytime. A lot of Lumetri's parking needs are daytime parking needs, whether that's employees or customers coming in to get estimates. And at night, it would typically just be vehicles that are being worked on that would either be inside the facility or in this fenced area back here. So at night, you really wouldn't see a lot of parking in their large parking field. And the hotel obviously is the exact opposite. At night, that's when all their clients come back in for the night. If your room is at this on this wing of the hotel and there's I don't know exactly where the entrance is, it'd probably make a lot of sense for you to park down here. And so in speaking with Lumetri, they're comfortable with the shared parking agreement. They think it makes sense. And we haven't heard anything to the contrary from Candlewood. On the topic of Candlewood, we have made them aware of everything we've been doing via notification to their corporate headquarters and to their local folks. And we've gone on 2 occasions to talk with their local management people. And so they're aware of what's going on. I don't know that the local people, when we initially talked to them, were necessarily thrilled. But I think that once they see what the building's going to look like, I think they imagined the worst when they heard of the use.
Yeah, Councilmember Elliott.
This question may be unanswerable, but I always get nervous when you talk about ambiguities in a drafted document. And I always get nervous when you talk about if we remove temporary, we may have some leverage to get Candlewood to acquiesce. What's the plan B if they don't?
Well, my understanding is that our attorneys, our legal staff is less concerned about it than are the attorneys working with Candlewood. They think that where the ambiguity lies is in a map. The language is clear, and the idea from our attorneys is the map is not of any real importance. That's an illustration. The language is what's of importance, and to the extent that we feel comfortable with it, maybe we could find some other way of making the Lumettri's attorney or representatives feel more comfortable.
Okay. Well, one more legal question: who drafted it?
I don't know. It was drafted in 1990.
Because the ambiguity is always going to be construed against the drafter, so it's fairly important to know who drafted it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My recollection is that it was passed back and forth between our office and the Candlewood attorneys. So it was jointly.
Well, someone's a drafter and someone's a reviewer. You don't jointly draft it, I don't think.
Well,
I'm just curious. And
I suspect that we drafted it. I believe that we drafted it. But it was a negotiated instrument. I'd have to go back. It may have language in it about, no one's.
Right. I'm just curious because you well know the contractual construction and everything, how it's going to come about. And I'm just curious. I want this to go through and I want them to acquiesce and I want it to work. I guess that's the only reason I'm asking about a plan B, to make sure that if for some reason they get their backup, we've got a plan B and we'll say, well, let's do this then, and that it works for Lumetri.
Yeah, and we'll work with city attorney staff on that.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
I got two things. First of all, why is the road not moved to the left? I know not to the right because of the railroad tracks. What would be wrong with putting the road along the western border so that Lumetri has no road cutting through them?
Yeah, and I'll explain it both ways because people watching might not know the other direction either. The road cannot move to the east because that would cause left turners, if you're going westbound on 77th Street to turn into the site, if you moved it further to the east, that would cause stacking onto the railroad tracks, which is, you can't do.
Okay.
Moving it to the west is problematic because it's not all that visible here, but the Candlewood building is right here, and it would cause such a sharp turning movement to get you back onto the drive aisle that it wastes a lot of land, has headlights shining into hotel room windows and other things. So it's really just not practical.
Okay. And the other question, and I had talked with Tim Carter when this originally was even thought about, is I happened to mention a thing like what they do down in Disney World and Town of Celebration, where they hide everything that you don't want to see from a street, so they make everything look like it's a house or a building in the front and everything's behind, even grocery store parking lots and everything. You've got the parking behind it is going to be where the wrecks are? Okay, and what kind of fencing will that be so that it's not an eyesore to the hotel?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be opaque screening is the
So it
terminology.
won't be a
that's
chain link
used.
fence?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I just want to make sure that we do to them something favorably so that it's not looking like, and I don't want to use the word junky. I mean, that's why they're there to get fixed, so they're not, but sometimes they end up sitting waiting for insurance settlements, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But they will be outside. Right. Okay. But they won't be in the parking lot that you see from 77th Street.
My hope, the way the language in this, there's some ability for the Public Works Director to approve changes to the parking lot. My hope is that eventually, and I think their hope is this too, that there would be a drive aisle directly connecting Lumetri and Honda because of all the cross business that happens there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But the parking lot you're just showing, there won't be any cars that need to be repaired to be parked out there. Okay.
That's a good discussion.
Yeah.
Well, it's been, is any other discussion? Any other questions?
I'm
This
good.
is very good. Thanks, staff, for presenting that information. There's a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. We're looking forward to seeing that new building. Councilmember Fitzhenry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my pleasure to present this item for the City of Richfield. This is a consideration of a request for the City Council to confirm the appointment of Todd Sandahl as Public Safety Director for the City of Richfield. Since former Public Safety Director Barry Fritz, who's here tonight, retired effectively March 29th, 2012, Deputy Public Safety Director Todd Sandahl has been serving as Acting Public Safety Director. During that time, Mr. Sandahl has been performing the duties of Public Safety Director very competently. In June, City Manager informed City Council that the position of Public Safety Director be posted as an internal recruitment. Mr. Sandahl was the only applicant for the position. As a result of this recruitment, and based on Mr. Sandahl's excellent performance in his role as Acting Public Safety Director, he has been selected by the City Manager for appointment to the position of Public Safety Director. Mr. Sandahl has spent over 36 years in police service, since starting in Richfield Police Department in March 1978. Mr. Sandahl served as a peace officer until October 1984, when he was promoted to the position of police sergeant. In March 1997, he was promoted to police lieutenant, and in November 2008, he was promoted to Deputy Public Safety Director, a position he has held since then. In those positions, he has supervised every aspect of the police division of the Public Safety Department. Mr. Sandahl has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Public Administration from Metropolitan State University and a Master of Arts degree in Public Administration from the University of St. Thomas. He is also a course instructor for the Upper Midwest Community Policing Institute and presents courses in 4 different states to several hundred command and line officers. Mr. Sandahl has been an associate member of the International Association of Police Chiefs of Minnesota Chiefs of Police and Hennepin County Chiefs of Police. Also, might add that he also knows his traffic.
We saw that tonight.
So what I'd like to do by motion is confirm the appointment of Todd Sandahl as Public Safety Director for the City of Richfield.
Second. Council member comments. I just want to say I'm really pleased with this appointment. I think this speaks well of the city. We promoting internally. We have great talent internally, and I'm sure we'll see other talent rising to the top.
I just want to know if Barry has a torch to pass on.
Yes.
Since
Good
he's in
comments
the
from
audience.
the city staff?
I would say the same thing. I think it's great that you're going to come on board and be running it. You'll be here for, what, 10, 15, 20 years? And you're going to set a record. That's our expectation. And you can't have a beard like Barry does for a long time.
I share all the sentiments that have been voiced.
Yeah, right with you.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Welcome.
Speech.
Would you like to say anything, Chief, please?
Madam Mayor and council members, I'll keep it short. When I started with the department in 1978, I never had it on my radar that someday I might be appointed to this position as Public Safety Director. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Richfield for the past 34 years. The men and women of the Richfield Police Department make it one of the finest departments in the state of Minnesota. And the success of that police department comes from the support of the citizens and the support of the city council that we have here in the city of Richfield. So I want to thank you again for this privilege to serve as the public safety director for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. We move to city manager's report.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I have just one thing I want to talk about. And I wonder if I can get somebody, maybe I could get either Pam or someone to put this up on the overhead, please. Recently, Richfield was one of 78 work sites that were honored at an award ceremony by Hennepin County for the 2012 Wellness by Design Worksite Award. And the award acknowledges an organization that makes employees' health a priority, acknowledges their creativity and effectiveness in wellness policies and programs. This is the 7th year in a row that Richfield has received the award. There are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum awards. This year, Richfield's Live Healthy, Live Happy Employee Wellness Program attained the silver level award. The city's program is based on and encourages employees to focus on nutrition, lifestyle, and physical activity. And our motto here is healthy employees not only feel better, but also are more productive and cost less to insure. But, within our organization, Doris Swanson does a lot of work on this program, and a lot of the credit has to go to her. But it's a wonderful, I think, feeling for me to know that the people in this organization, that we value wellness for our employees, and that our employees value it because they participate in the program. And maybe in the future we'll be able to get a higher award, a gold or platinum, but I'm very satisfied with the fact that we've gotten the silver award for the 7th year in a row, and just wanted to make sure the council knew that.
Well, that's exciting considering we're doing the Do Town right here behind us.
Right.
This is all about that, right?
Exactly.
And you started it long before we started Do Town.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
So thank you
Yes.
for doing that, being a leader in the community. It's great.
What I think is wonderful is not only is it better for the employees, but it's better for the whole city in terms of keeping people healthy, saves tax dollars.
It's an example too, right, for
It
other
does.
businesses in our community.
Hopefully it will.
Yeah. Thank you. Claims and payroll.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Seeing no further issues or items on the agenda, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.